Cool. I'm kind of starting to like maybe even waive the introductions, right? Like especially like YouTube is the biggest platform we do the podcast on. And
Hmm.
most people on YouTube, they're kind of utilitarian, right? They don't just, it's not just entertainment, it's like, what can I get out of it kind of thing. So the podcast could be doing better, but it's like, an author, they don't like listening to a conversation for 40 minutes from an author they've never heard of.
Right.
That's kind of tough. But if the video is like how to sell books, like how to market books, how to do, and then suddenly, you have thousands of people checking it out. So I'm kind of leaning more toward with the podcast, just having honest, real conversations and making it like less formal and more just, people chatting about whatever.
Oh,
So yeah,
sure. So anyway, so here I go. Okay, I'm
let's do it.
author Maria Madjoucoff, and I happened to find your book. And I'm going to call you Greg because I kept saying G. And so anyway, I love the initials because I use my initials, but my name is Maria, Maria Christina. So, but again, I don't know why would I was thinking about that with initials, how it just sounds so much more formal and it hits right. Anyway, so I found your book through Lynn's Love's. Oh God, remind me. I'm sorry. Lynn's Love's. It was a it was a promotion she was doing about how to get authors
Yeah.
out there. And so I saw your book and I thought the cover was absolutely dynamic. I mean, I love American Indian history and also,
Right.
the story. So anyway, but my questions again, I'll be asking you the questions. So,
Yeah,
but
just
so
this
let's
is just really quick, I guess, for
yeah,
the record, right?
yeah,
This
sure.
is an interesting sort of change of pace because I'm so used to interviewing and not used at all to being interviewed. So I'm actually even slightly nervous, which is interesting. This is all very new here.
Well, as I mentioned, my decor is very Spartan. Like said, please don't be nervous.
I
No,
like
but
it. I
anyway,
like it.
but so anyway, I'm in the Northeast, by the way. I'm in Rhode Island, so which is the smallest state. So, and you said you're in Ohio, right?
No,
So,
I'm in Tennessee in the Nashville
oh my
suburbs.
God, wrong. I'm sorry, wrong state. So,
Oh, you're good. You're
okay,
good.
let's just start with this. That I'm going to ask you questions about the Blueberry Daughter because that was
Cool.
such an interesting title. But let me just start by asking you, like, when did you first start writing? Like, what made you? How did you begin? And how old were you when you first started writing?
Ooh, so this is interesting. And at some point, I'm going to write a book about it. I
Okay.
had no inclination to write until I was about 19 years old. Like it was never on my radar at all. And I was kind of an unlikely candidate. Like in school, it took me forever to learn how to read. Like the school called my mom and they're like, "We think he's got a problem. Like he
Wow.
just cannot connect the dots on how these letters make words." And I was always a very slow reader, you know what I mean? But then when I was 19, it was basically like as a teenager, I had this very narrow view of the world, right? It was like hanging out with my friends, trying to like
Mm.
talk to girls, like be an idiot, not a very clear sense of like, hey, at some point I'm going to be an older person and I should probably think about a career. I should probably get serious about the future. And I had a friend who passed away. Um, it was interesting. I was working every summer at a fishing resort up in Minnesota. Like I had we call him my uncle, second cousin. I never met the guy. He owned a fishing resort. And
Mhm.
when I was 16, my mom was like, I got to get you out of here for the summer because like if you're just going to be running around with your friends, like you guys are going to get in trouble. You're going to probably do like permanent damage. So, what about going up north and working at this fishing resort and just doing like some honest kind of work? You know what I mean? And I'd always loved to fish, always loved the outdoors. So I basically spent 3 summers there. And then my last day, it was like I graduated high school. I went up there to work the whole summer. I was about to start college in like 2 weeks. The day I was leaving, like my family was coming up to pick me up. I found out that like my best friend up there drowned in a boating accident. And it
Oh,
just like no, it was
yeah.
it was it was the first time I'd like lost anyone, right? And it was like when
Yeah.
you're 18, you're this invincible,
Right.
young man, you like the whole like nothing can touch you kind of thing. And it was like, oh man. So I ended up in Missouri and I was kind of a little like processing all that, not doing it very well. And I started having these like I'm gonna call them semi supernatural encounters. Like just
Oh.
weird things happening, right? Like we were seeing owls every night. I think I saw over like 100 in a year. Like they would even be on like the roof of the house. We'd get out of the car, there'd be an owl sitting on the roof of the garage waiting for us. And
Mm,
everywhere we went, it was like, and we just encountered weird things. Like one night, we're driving in the middle of the night and a giant herd of feral horses just walked out in front of the car, like from one side of the forest to the
mm,
other. And we stopped and came and went like ghosts. And we're like, did that just happen? And there was weird things happening like that. Like the one that really opened me up that I think about a lot is, I was on the way home one night and sitting at a light where like I could have gone left, I could have gone straight, I could
mm,
have gone right.
mm,
And I was
mm.
not really in a hurry. And for no reason, the left turn signal, like the green arrow to the left goes on. And there's no one there. I'm like by myself. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, we're going left. And
Mhm.
on the way, I come across like a flipped car
Wow.
right after these guys flipped and they're like crawling out of the windows and I'm like pulling up.
Yeah.
I'm there just in time to like help them and I like hung out with them till the ambulance came and it kind of gave me this spiritual sense that like there's an entire world within the world that we
Mm,
can't see and it wants to communicate to us and it wants us
yeah.
to realize that we're bigger than we are and the world is bigger than we think it is and there's so much more than just what we can see. And I
Mhm.
started getting these ideas to write stories
Mhm. Mhm.
and I didn't, I ran around with it quietly, this dream, for like 10 years. And then
Wow.
when COVID came around, I was like, second job at a pizzeria. I wrote my whole first book behind a pizzeria between deliveries.
Really?
And then just kind of the rest is history. And I've just been like going strong and just like tuning my mind to it and getting serious. And, we've been, I say we, but like, there's been some great stories coming out lately. I mean, it's just like the ideas are rolling and I've got kind of, I know how to write. I mean, I had to teach myself because I wasn't a good writer. Um,
I say you
yeah,
could have fooled me.
no, it's
Because
taken
yeah.
a lot, but I mean, some of these stories, some are
Mhm.
easier than others, right? Like some stories are so much work and they're draining, but other stories like seem to almost flow through you. Like the Blueberry Daughter
Yes.
was just like this raw stream of like spiritual consciousness. And I
Yes.
had
Yes.
so much fun writing this book. And it just came naturally. And it was like this puzzle, and all these ideas are coming in and dreams are coming in. And it was just like, I had such a good time writing that book. I just felt like, I was like getting younger as I'm writing it, just more vibrant. It was just like a
Yeah.
beautiful experience putting this one together. You know what I mean?
Well, okay, so let's stay with that first because since you're on the Blueberry Daughter,
Yeah.
so that's a novella and that's part of a larger book that you wrote.
Yeah. So the larger book is called The Mighty Esox.
Hmm.
And esox is like a basically another term for like a musky fish, which is,
Oh.
particular fish that you'll find in like the Midwest, kind of like southern Canada. And
Hmm.
it's like the biggest, let's say, predatory fish in like the United States kind of thing. But they're
Hmm.
very, very hard to catch. Like they call it the fish of 10,000 casts. And I have had this like obsession with trying to catch them just because it's like difficult, it's rare. You can go a whole life
Hmm.
without seeing one.
Hmm.
So like the story, I had a dream about one of these fish, and I ended up writing a whole book about it. But like to explain, and it's basically a supernatural mystery where like there's a character who kind of gets duped into becoming an essential piece in the concluding moments of a ancient mystery, but he doesn't know it because it's not his culture. Like he doesn't see it coming, and that's
Hmm.
kind of why he makes the mistakes he makes. But to
Hmm.
give all of that context, I needed to write the Blueberry Daughter. And then
Hmm.
after writing The Blueberry Daughter, it was like, damn, like this is actually better than the bigger book.
Hmm.
But what's so interesting is like I learned later on that, a lot of Native American cultures have been telling a very similar story. Like
Hmm.
in the European cultures or, Judeo-Christian cultures, we have this Cain and Abel idea.
Right.
But they told a similar story about two sisters, like one good and one evil, and this
Hmm.
need to find balance between these, natural but opposing forces kind of thing.
Sure.
So it was like I wrote this whole book and then realized it was kind of a remake of like a story I'd never heard. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Well, no, I don't want to give anything away about the book
Yeah.
because I mean, again, it's selling pretty good, right? I mean, so
It's
far,
doing well. It's doing well.
good,
I mean,
good.
getting great feedback. It's
Yeah.
been probably the most successful launch. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's been good. Yeah.
Now, okay, before I ask any questions about like any of the two characters, which again, I couldn't put it down. Like there was a, the start of it was like, okay, let me see where this is going. And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
it goes into something that's more, again, spiritual. And I do enjoy that. So, but the cover now, did you design that yourself or did you have
No,
some?
I actually, I actually used like an AI art program.
Oh,
It is like based on someone I know, but a lot of people, and I'm learning this more and more. Like I put out a video the other day that was like asking people like, "Hey, what is your opinion on AI art in books?"
yeah.
And I did not realize what like a kind of divisive subject it is. And
Mhm.
there's a whole lot of people who've been quietly not reading my books because I didn't use a graphic designer. And they're like, hey,
Hmm.
you're and their arguments were interesting and things I had not considered. And one of them is like, hey, you're taking away the work of a graphic artist. Like these people have families and stuff too, right? And their jobs are getting replaced by these programs. But
Mhm.
another thing is that the programs are taking every photograph, painting, sculpture, image on the internet and using it to teach itself how to replicate and replace those artists. So, like a lot of people consider the AI art programs to be stealing in a lot of ways. Um, but yeah, so I had to, coming up here, I'm going to do a painting of the cover. Like I'm going to take basically the same cover and do like a painting version, but it's just going to like take a lot of time. And I'm just like, okay, where do I fit this into the schedule kind of thing? But I
Mhm.
certainly don't want anyone to like not read the book because, the cover
Mhm.
is like, oh, hey,
Well,
yeah,
I
like that.
mean, I'm not very versed in AI and I do know what it is. I can see it, but at the same time, I'm trying to think, like I've never seen a cover like that before. Like
Hmm.
excuse me, I've seen covers. What I'm trying to say is that I've seen beautiful covers of books and without being AI, it could have been like done by someone else. So if maybe I'm just saying if it wasn't mentioned that it was AI, then I forget what the name would be called, but it's just like I've seen, you know, whoever did my book again. I mean,
Hmm.
you can't come up with everything on your own. Sometimes it is taken from other places. But with that being said, like so you said about the painting. So that's fascinating. Like you have paintings in the book that you drew yourself. And now when did you start drawing? Is like was that around the same time that you started writing?
No, well, painting, yes. Actually, I had to teach myself how to paint to do actually the book before that, which is called The Flower from the Garbage. But like I had always loved to draw, and I'd
Yeah,
always been good. That was like just a natural talent that I had, especially like portraits and that kind of thing. I've been doing that for as long as I can remember.
yeah,
Uh, so then, like as I was planning the books, I started doing the paintings and drawings, and it almost like helped me to organize the story. Like instead of having like a
sure.
blueprint layout, it's like, okay, I have some of the images. I have it was interesting. It was almost like I could see it. I had
Yes,
to see
yes.
it before I can write it or something like that.
Yeah, it's like when you do. I mean, I'm not again. I wrote a screenplay, but that's because that's how it came out in my mind. I could visualize
I,
like the characters. But I'm saying, I guess that's what they would call a storyboard in a movie. So
mm,
it's kind of like you kind of saw, like your story unfold, but with the images and that you can draw. That's even like a myth. It's even more amazing to me. So, but with regards to yeah, I don't want to give away why the character, and I'm sorry if the names aren't coming to me right now, but why the nicer of the two sisters is called the blueberry daughter. So I'll just leave that, let the readers find out the
yeah.
reason why that's that. I thought that was fascinating. I was trying to figure out when is this going to come up. So
Mm.
I
And
mean,
don't worry about spoilers. I mean, I'm honestly
yeah.
like,
Oh,
like the book is it's a big book for being like a little novella. You know what I mean? Like it's meant to attack very big questions and it's meant to connect to. Like I really appreciate the way that you appreciated it. And like I did watch a video earlier, someone else doing a review, and it was a very long review, very detailed, but it had none of the spiritual or religious elements, which is really like the heart
yes.
of this story is that like our lives are so much bigger than we think they are.
Mhm.
And some people get that, some people don't. You know what I mean? It depends on where people are when they read it, right? Like whatever their personal experiences, their sense
Well,
of the world, all these different things.
and that's the thing. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to get into religion, spirituality, but the thing is, that's what fascinates me about, you know, I I respect the I don't know anyone truly that's American Indian, but I respect anyone, that is like so in tune with their, their nature and also their
Mhm.
spirituality. So again, like to draw from that, I kind of almost thought like maybe you were part Native American, but are you?
It's funny, my great grandmother grew up on a reservation in northern Wisconsin. And
Wow.
she was a huge influence on my mom. And then, like, of all, let's say, my relatives on my mom's
Yeah.
side, I
Yeah.
know the most about her. Like, and my mom is a very, very interesting character. So, like, she has always been like kind of a tomboy, loved sports, loved fishing, loved the
Yeah.
outdoors.
Yeah.
Took my brother and I fishing, camping, all kinds of things. And then when she was a little girl, she wasn't very well understood by her female relatives. Like they're trying to give her little dolls to play with and things. But like
Sure.
this, my great grandmother would like bring her a praying mantis. And my mom was just like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, or like a walking
Yeah.
stick bug or a frog. And my
Yeah.
mom was just like, oh my God, this is so cool. So it was like this person really, really understood my mom. And then she was also, very close to like, almost like she feels like she's in church when she's like out looking at the water or walking through
Yes.
the woods or something. Like, this is where I feel
Yes.
connected. This is where I feel at
Yeah.
home. I feel good. I feel like I'm part of everything.
Yes.
So I wouldn't consider myself Native American, but like there's roots, like there's
Sure.
family members that I feel a connection to that, very much so. So
Sure. No, the reason why I say that is because to write something like that, but it just seems like you already knew about the Native American history so much that I was just like, well, this must be some connection. So that was why I thought so. And so let's see. I like okay, yeah, the story definitely had a twist at the end, and I was saying I hope it had ended differently, but let's just but I'm
yeah,
saying the good versus evil, is always fascinating. And I think let's just say this, like, the ending to the book, or the book's theme there, where when someone passes, and I've gone through this already a couple times because I've lost both parents. So it's
yeah,
kind of like I feel, that my mom is always with me, and I make sure that I, talk to her, and not crazy, but it's like I make sure I talk to her. So that's what I found so wonderful about reading it. It's not about, always, the good versus evil, because I mean, to me, in the end, like we will see them again, or they are with us, in spirit
right.
at the moment. So, but anyway, so um, I
No,
was
just
gonna.
really, really quick on that. I
Oh,
mean,
no, no, please go ahead. Sorry,
yeah, no, I
elaborate.
agree with you. Firstly, I'm sorry for your loss.
Oh,
It's something we're all going to have to face, right? But it's like
yeah,
there's no time, there's no day that it's going to be good, it's going to be easy, it's going to, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
it's just one of those like brutal realities of life. But I am certain that people like the real losses for the people still around, right? Like I have like when my wife lost her mom. She dreams of her now, and it's like
I'm sorry.
dreams of her
Yeah,
frequently, and like her mom is restored. She's like
yeah,
beautiful. Like you take away all like the baggage of life that's difficult, and it's just like the essence of this person that's just loving, pure, all these
right,
things watching
right.
over you. And she started having like these interesting encounters with like butterflies now, like landing on her and things that her mom had always connected with that she's now seeing and then occasionally finding notes and just feeling this sense that like, hey, you're watching over me. Like
Yes,
you're
yes,
always with me somehow still, and
yes,
I have no doubt that, this life is not the end for us kind of thing. Um, but I tried to tackle a really difficult question in the Blueberry Daughter. So like if you think of like Jesus, right, and you just take the story, like
right,
take not from Christian this and that, but just like let's say as a
yeah,
narrative, and it's
right.
like this guy dying somehow allows him to do his best work. Like
Mhm.
that is a complicated idea. Like how do you square that up where like the worst thing happening to you actually allows you to do the best thing you can possibly do, kind of thing. Um,
Yes, yes,
that's a hell of an undertaking for, any kind of fiction writer, anything like that, or even just to wrestle with, like as a human being, you're like, how does that work? So I tried to do something similar in the Blueberry Daughter that, the
yeah,
most tragic elements can lead to the greatest blessings for everyone, you know?
Yeah, no, that's the one thing that I took away from your book is that, you know, again, all I can say is, I don't want to talk too much about myself right now, but I'm saying that like my father became a priest, Orthodox, Greek Orthodox. So when I was 6 years old, so I mean, I kind of more was into the religious side. And
Mhm.
then, as you grow, we get to choose the spirituality. And I'm not dictating to anybody, but if you don't think there's something out there that's bigger than yourself, then you're fooling yourself. Because when you're at your lowest, it's like if you have to rely, on people. And but anyway, that's me. I mean, what I'm trying to say is like sometimes you're so like, looking at, like I've been looking almost even recently, okay, can someone, comfort me when, and again,
Mhm.
it's been 3 years,
Right.
since my mom passed, but it's not always the people. It's like you kind of like look to the outside when it's looking in. But I want to get back to, tell me the name of the character, the male character in the book. I'm sorry, what was his name again?
That is Nimbogi.
Nabogi. What I
Yeah.
found interesting is that, you know, and this happens a lot, but maybe as a woman, sometimes maybe this is awful for me to say, but sometimes you wonder if like men see like he did, like he
Mm.
could see the evil in the first daughter, but it's
Right.
like he kind of like was able to see. And that's a gift. And that's why I was so fascinated by it, because it's almost like I wish there was more people out there like that they could, whether it's male, female, or whatever. I mean, you could see the person without, because sometimes people just are taken away by the facade, like the beauty of, that character. And so, yeah, that's what really fascinated me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a real thing. And I have similar kind of feelings, right? That like it's tricky. So like one time my aunt and uncle, they were living in central Washington state. It's very, very beautiful out there, and they were like kind of up on a mountain. And I took a dirt bike, and I found this beautiful kind of plateau overlooking these valleys, and there's these beautiful orchards out in the distance, and the river and the mountains. And all I could think was, I wish there was someone here to be looking at this with me.
Yeah.
But in terms of who should be there looking at it with you, like there's sometimes nothing worse than like kind of wasting something beautiful on someone who isn't going to see it, right? Like if
Exactly.
you took someone to like Italy and all they do is complain about, the food or something, or like, no one speaks English here, and you're like, God, it would have been
That's
better by myself, right? But if you can share something wonderful with the right person, like there are few things better in this life than like that just genuine connection or
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. And there's another element where like a lot of people right now feel unseen. And that's
Mhm.
goes back to this idea of like also why you need God, right? It's like it's hard to see people. Like we all have bills, we all have jobs, we all have
Right.
responsibilities, we all have our own baggage, right? So like you're not going to see other people clearly and you're not going to be seen clearly, right? But maybe you don't need as much from other people if there is
Yeah.
a great mind and great heart that purposefully puts you here, right? Like not just, some kind of accident, not arbitrary, like you're not a mistake. Like you are
Mhm.
absolutely supposed to be here and you are
Mhm.
more valuable than you will ever know, just inherently without doing anything.
Yeah.
To God.
Well, I think unfortunately, I think a lot of times, because of the way the world is. I mean, we see, like, again, things on social media. We think people are happy. Well, they're not happy. It's like they're just putting up that picture of that moment in time. And I think what happens is a lot of times people aren't honest, not excuse me, they're not honest with other people, but they're not even honest with themselves. Like it's like
Right.
it took me, like I said, it took me a long time to to understand that. But I'm not putting down social media, but sometimes it's just like, the beauty of writing. Like I'm sure
Hmm.
you can appreciate that, because when you write something, you want to be in silence. You don't, I mean, not that but to be disturbed while you're in your writing process. And you mentioned how when you have a story, it like it literally, I'm sorry to say this because I know it's us as we think it's us writing it, but it's coming through us. That's how I see it. The story's
I
actually coming
agree with
through
you.
you.
I agree with you 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because if we were that great, I mean, don't you think we would have, I mean, not to say hit stardom or whatever, but I'm just saying that it's like creativity flows. And I'm telling you, sometimes like I don't know, I've been kind of blocked for some time now, but it's like
Mhm.
you can't make it, you can't force it. So I don't want to like talk, too much about because I don't know what the time we have here, but I want to know like first of all, how many books have you written? And I do want to also ask you, tell me about how did your like your book, then I forget the name of it, but it's like it's up on the
Oh,
board that
in Times
yeah.
Square? Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me like how many books you've written first and then tell me about that.
Yeah. So, and just for reference, we have 10 minutes. So
Okay.
that's a good time.
Yeah.
So I essentially have three full-size stories.
Okay.
So what had happened was I tried to write a book, during COVID, and then it came out at like 40,000 words and it was just not good. It was like, I don't know, I just didn't know what I was doing, right? And I was like, okay, taking on a full novel maybe isn't the right thing to do. I was like, what if I take on some short stories?
Mhm.
So I came up with, 13 short stories, refined them. I really liked them. And I was like, you know what? They don't really line up with each other, but they all have that philosophical, spiritual, deeper element. Even though they're a bunch
Mhm.
of different genres, there's
Mhm.
this
Mhm.
bigger thing where it's like an exploration of difficult questions in life. So I put those together into a book. So, like, some of those were short stories, some were novelettes, some were novellas. So then I
Mhm.
published a few of those individually later on. And then I have The Flower from the Garbage, and within that there was two novellas embedded in that much larger literary fiction.
Mhm.
One of them is the one that you saw on the Times Square billboard. That's called Truth and Evil, and
Mm.
that was one of these things where like you're in the middle of writing a book, and the ideas are flowing, and you feel great, and then these new ideas just pop up, and you're like, God, what do I do? Do I like put this current one on pause and then go write the next one, or like are
Mhm.
they totally different things? Do I find a way to weave them together? And my wife gave me a great idea how I could incorporate those novellas into the larger literary fiction novel.
Mhm.
So that's basically how that came about. But that little novella, Truth and Evil, which is like a spiritual, dark Christian World War II fiction,
Mhm.
has ended up being like my most successful and popular book. And then
Mm.
in terms of how it got on a billboard,
Mm.
I'm big on the whole, writing contest thing. And
Mhm.
part
Mhm.
of it is like as an indie author, you feel crazy. You're like, I like put my entire soul into this book, and I
Yeah.
think it's good, but I have no idea if it's going to connect. I have no idea if it's as good as I think. So I
Yes.
like basically started throwing books into like contests just to see. And then I
Good.
like ended up coming back winning, and I was like, oh, like
Wow.
maybe these books are as good as I on a good day think they are.
Sure.
I mean, because like you like, and I'm sure you can
Yeah.
relate as a writer. You're like, okay, you're writing at night. You're like, damn, this is so good. You fall asleep, you feel so good. You wake up in the morning and you're like, oh, I hated all of that. It was terrible. It was garbage. Throw it all away and start over. And you don't
Right.
really know. You can't really see yourself or your work clearly.
Yeah.
So yeah, through one of those contests, I ended up like on this New York Times billboard. So
Well, congratulations.
thank you very
Congratulations.
much.
No, but you know what? It's like that is an accomplishment in itself. Now, again, that's one thing we don't have to talk too much about, but it's one thing where yes, you write the book, you have it published, whether it's self-publishing or you go the traditional route. But the thing is you still have to get yourself out there unless you're a top writer. It's a lot of work to have to like get your name out there. So I commend you for doing that because that's the thing. People probably think like, oh, it's so simple. I wrote a book. And no, it's not that simple. And
Right.
I'm sure you can attest to that. So may I ask, do you have uh, are you're an indie author. So you always promote this yourself and is that how the route that you go on Amazon, you use the um,
Yeah. So
KMD, is it?
the first two books, I didn't know I could publish directly on Amazon.
Okay.
So I was like soliciting publishers and things, and I found these two. hybrid publishers. And, some people might call them vanity publishers. It's hard to say because in this space, like authors are so passionate and there's a
Mm,
ton of people who are like ready to like take your money, exploit you. Hey, we'll help with
sure,
marketing. We'll do this, that, the other thing.
sure,
So like it cost me a fair bit of money, but they did edit the books, design the covers, and then get
sure.
them out there. And then they were, available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all these different things, but they do almost nothing for you for marketing.
Right, right.
So it was like my books were out there, but I had no readers. I didn't have any personal social media, and the books were just doing nothing at all. So that was one of these, like, I was ready to like give up and quit because
Sure,
like it was like
sure.
nothing's happening and I need to be realistic here. So that's when I actually threw one of the books into a contest and then forgot. And then like 6 months later got word that I had won like a silver medal. And I was like,
That's
damn,
awesome.
like so but since then I'm like, okay, wait, like, if you were prepared to, let's say, spend $3,000 or $4,000 to publish a book, I was like,
Yep,
what if you took that same amount of money and you focused on your own marketing or you save that cash, like if you have to
right,
end up doing it all yourself anyway, like
right,
shit, like find a good editor,
right.
like try out. And I haven't tried the Facebook ads yet. I kind of played around with the Amazon ads a little bit, but like there's some, you know email subscription services. There's so many resources, and there's things like BookBub that have just like a whole library of resources for authors and things. And
Sure,
I was like, you know what? Like we're gonna go all in on this journey, and we're gonna do it ourselves. And
good,
win, lose,
good.
or draw, we are gonna own the success, the failure, whatever it may be. Like this is
Mm,
our journey. Can't expect some publisher, some agent to like care as much as we do.
right.
Just gonna, yeah, we're gonna go all in on this thing.
Well, actually, you just answered one of my, I mean, next to last questions. So this was the part where I was going to ask you, yeah, what would you suggest to, new indie authors? And again, I mean, by going on Book Talk, it's great, but you've got like, I mean, I don't know how many thousands of new authors I see. I don't know how many like people want to, do book trailers and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I'm just saying that, I mean, everyone's different. You decide for yourself. But I'm saying as a new indie author, I think it's best to just, if I'm hearing right, it's like, own it. I mean, take your time if you're gonna go through Amazon, but also you have to also figure out how you're going to market yourself because obviously, it's expensive and
Right.
yeah, but yeah,
I'll
I
tell you,
think it makes sense.
I'll tell you what I would tell you, what I would tell every other author starting out, people who are experienced, all of them. I found a service the other day. It's a legitimate service, and they say if you give us $5,000, we will make you a New York Times bestseller.
Mhm.
And like they're legitimate too. Like I have no doubt they'll do it. So it's like that's very telling about what it takes to sell books. But
Mhm.
here's the thing: there is no substitute for like just writing a decent book to begin with. Like
Right.
your best insurance policy is
Mhm.
just to write something worth reading and then
Sure,
play the long game, right? Like it is not a matter of instant gratification. Like it is a long journey, and that's not to discourage anybody. I mean, it's a
sure.
mountain climb, but there's no way around really earning it over the long haul. But the biggest thing that's been beneficial for me is like every time I sit down to write, I set an intention. I like say a little prayer and I'm like, take it
Nice,
out of my hands. Like it's not
nice.
about me, it's about these readers. Like just guide this story. Like I'm just the one typing it. And you
Yeah.
take that pressure off yourself and you just like let it flow, and you keep in mind that ultimately my books, I want to provide for my family and also provide good service to the readers. Like I want
Sure.
readers to get something meaningful out of. I'm not going to waste anyone's time with what I'm writing. So that is my biggest advice to anyone starting this journey is just
Mhm.
like think about the readers. Don't think about the marketing ahead of time, but think about the readers, think about the people, think about the connection, the human stories. Like,
Mhm.
when people listen to music, like they love the pretty sounds, they love the perfect
Yes.
voices, but really more than anything, they want to connect. That's what everyone everywhere wants to do is they want to connect, they want to be understood, they want to relate, they want a soundtrack to their life, their current season, where they are.
Mhm.
They want to communicate between souls, straight
That's
up.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's good advice. That's good advice. What are we looking at time now?
1 minute on the dot.
Okay, just really quick. So just tell me really quick about like I know you give like 10% back to St. Jude. Just can you tell me about that before we go?
Yeah, so it was just the thing I came up with. I have these theories in my mind that like everything works out for me and like God is good and the world is great and everything works out if it makes enough sense. But I've also never been put in a position where like you've got a child who has cancer. So I'm like, okay, there's certain things that happen to people that would challenge everything I believe.
Sure.
And I'm like, you know what? Another thing I feel is like, okay, if life blesses you, you have an obligation to give back and to bless. So I'm
Yeah,
like, okay, you know what? If my books are very, very successful, I got money coming in, my cup needs to overflow and do the right thing for others. So at the end of the
I
year, I add up all the sales and I cut a check for St. Jude's. I give them just 10%, whatever royalties I made that year, and
that's
hoping we
beautiful.
can do some good through this whole journey, right?
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I got